Hey, welcome to Real Talk, where I give real answers to real questions from real worship leaders. If you are a real worship leader with a real question and you want a real answer, head right here to leadingworshipwell.com/realtalk to submit your question for a future episode. Got some really good questions this week, as always. Let's talk about it. We have a small team: keys player, violin, sometimes cajon, and 3 singers. Our strongest singer has a more classical style to singing and thrives in a high soprano range. We sing a variety of songs, as I'm big on including various genres, but sometimes tones sound like they're clashing because of different styles in singing. The team is not necessarily highly experienced or trained. What recommendations do you have in working with the team so the end output isn't cringeworthy? Rochelle. So there's a couple things that I want to address in this question. First of all, it sounds like you have a small team, so we'll talk about that and what that means musically and how to get a sound that you want out of that small team. You also have a singer who sings in a classical style, so that's 2, and then you're also singing a variety of songs of different genres. So we'll talk about those 3 things. The first is you have, well, let's talk about this first, because I think your last question, part of the question, is actually what you need to think about the most. You said, I'm big on including various genres. Listen, it's fine to sing different genres in church. I've nothing against it. But I think there's also something to be said to identifying what the sound of your church is. Think about who's in your church. Think about who are you serving and what is going to best help them accomplish what you're trying to accomplish on Sunday morning, which, as I always talk about, is not to facilitate a one-on-one personal experience with God, but it is to encourage and exhort one another and have this vertical relationship with God at the same time. And so I don't think that we need to just incorporate every genre of music in the church just because they exist. So I think it starts with understanding who you're serving, and that's going to be important here in a second, because we're going to talk about how that plays into the style of what music you're producing on a Sunday morning. But I just want you to think about that. Who am I serving? I want to serve the people of my church as best as I possibly can, and that means probably choosing a certain style, a certain genre of music. And honestly, before, we used to think of it in terms of contemporary versus traditional music, right? And so now I think the discussion is a little more nuanced because a lot of churches are doing contemporary music. Maybe you're still doing traditional music, I don't know. But if you're doing contemporary music, now there are a bunch of subgenres underneath that, and it's not just, do I want to do contemporary songs or do I want to do hymns? Now it's, I want to do contemporary songs, but do I do like Bethel style spontaneous worship? Do I do gospel music? Do I do City Alight modern hymns, Stuart Townsend modern hymn versions? Do I do Paul Baloche, whatever that, there are a bunch of subgenres under the contemporary music setting, and I don't think a lot of people agree with this, but I feel like this is what I think, is that we should be picking whatever genre best serves the people that we're leading. We don't have to just throw in a diversity of genres just for the sake of throwing in a diversity of genres so that we can say, look at all the different kinds of music we're doing. And so I want to start there because I want you to identify what type of genre will best serve your church on a regular basis, and then lean into that genre. And that's not to say that you can never work outside of that genre, that style of music, but there's probably a style of music that resonates best in your church. So I want you to find that. Now, part of that conversation is, what are we equipped to do at our church? What sort of genre of music are we equipped to do at our church? For instance, when it comes to gospel music in church, gospel music is pretty crazy, musically. There is a lot going on, and I love that about it. But the musicians on my team, including myself, honestly, are not equipped to play gospel music, nor is that style of music going to resonate with the people in my church. That's not going to be what serves them best. Just like if I went into a church that focused on gospel music every Sunday, like I'm not going to bring some Hillsong or Bethel song in there and do it like they would do it, because that wouldn't be what best serves them. Like, we can recognize the differences between churches. I don't think that it's wrong to do that. And then we recognize what's going to best serve people, and we serve them. So my point in saying that is, what is your team equipped to do? Use that to find the voice of your church. What is going to best serve the people in your church? And then lean into that. Now, when it comes to the practical side of things with your singer who sings classically, I think a good starting place, I always recommend this channel because I love the YouTube channel, but I think it's great to start with the Worship Vocalist. I know that Charmaine from the Worship Vocalist, I'll link her channel down below and her website, but I think she does a great job talking about the difference between classical style of singing and contemporary style of singing, and really breaking that down and doing it in a way where it's not like classical singing is bad, it's just a different style of singing, and when we are leading contemporary songs, we should be using the contemporary style, or else we'll get that clash of tones that you talk about. So I will link that down in the description below, and I think just start to have that conversation with the singer on your team. Go to them and say, hey, for this new year, which it is now the new year, so this is a perfect time to do that as of me making this video. During this new year, I really want to focus on improving the sound of our team and making it more cohesive. From there, you say, I think that this style, whatever style it is for your church, whatever genre, is what's best going to serve and resonate with the people that we're leading on Sunday. And so we want to try to focus on that style and learn that style of music, that genre of music, as best as we possibly can. And so for the guitar player, maybe the guitar player, which you don't have a guitar player, but I'm speaking in general here, maybe the guitar player's used to playing bluegrass music. Well, bluegrass music isn't the same as contemporary music, so they're going to have to alter their style of playing. Your vocals are more of a classic style, so you're going to have to alter your vocals to sing in a contemporary way. Not that the old way is bad, but we are looking to do it this new way. And then from there, work with the singer and show her the difference. Maybe pull up a recording and say, you know, when you sing this syllable this way, or you're always in your head voice, I want you to hear how this contemporary music singer uses her chest voice a lot more to get a lot more power. And I really think that the Worship Vocalist channel would help you understand how to go about that conversation. So like I said, I'll link that down below. How do you get your congregation to sing? They just stare at us. We have no musicians rely on lyric videos. We have tried various styles of music, but older congregation, and they prefer the hymns. There are not many good quality videos for that instrumental. It's hard not to quench the spirit in transition from one video to the other. So how do I get my congregation to engage in worship? I mean, that's what we all want as a worship leader, right? That's what a lot of worship leaders are asking. Your specific situation is interesting because you're just playing videos on Sunday, right? And I think that actually a lot more worship leaders are doing that than you think they are, because I've gotten that question pretty frequently over my 4 years here on YouTube. And so what are my thoughts on it? I don't know if I've even ever addressed that before. First of all, can you still have a meaningful time of worship using instrumental music lyric videos? Yes. 100% yes, you don't need live musicians on stage to facilitate the kind of worship that you're expecting and have your congregation engage on Sunday. Now, along with that, you have to think about what that act is communicating. And I didn't see the specifics, or I didn't hear the specifics of your circumstance in your question, but I imagine, and I don't know if this is how you're doing it or not, but I imagine if you just put an instrumental lyric video up on the screen and click play and expect your church to sing, they're not going to sing, because that's just like there's nobody leading them. So how are you leading them in that moment? I mean, people lead to backing tracks, right? That's what click tracks are, basically. Usually you still have a full band on stage, but I think you need to focus on, first of all, leaning into the hymns. If that's what people prefer at your church, just like I talked about in the last question, if that's what people prefer in your church and that's what resonates with them, then to serve your church the best that you possibly can, you don't need, just like I talked about in this last question, to go to all these other various genres just because they exist. Figure out what works in your church and do it. So you can still do hymns, so lean into those, and if you have an older congregation, they've probably grown up singing those hymns, so that removes a barrier of them not knowing the song. If you serve in a church of 60 to 80-year-old people, for the majority of them, then when you put a new Bethel song up on the screens, or a new Hillsong song up on the screens, or whatever, they aren't going to know it, so they aren't going to sing and they aren't going to engage. So for the next 3 months, just focus on hymns and increasing your congregational engagement with familiarity, first of all. Second of all, you've got to model it for them. So if you are just hitting the play button and walking away, get up there and have somebody sing. There's got to be somebody in your church who wants to sing. And even better than that, what if you had multiple people up there singing? What if you had a choir leading your church in worship, and it wasn't just one person up there as the song leader, but you found 3 or 4, 5 people who could stand up there together and model what engagement in worship looks like. I am going to recommend another resource because it came to mind, and that is my friend Nathan Drake over at Reawaken Hymns. He does hymns, classic hymns, in a modern way. So if you do want to introduce a modern style, but still keep the old hymns, he's got a bunch of high quality lyric videos for hymns that you can use that are instrumental. So you can check those out. I'll link that down in the description below. And then when it comes to transitioning between songs, I don't know how you're doing it, but I think you probably just need to think about how you're triggering the videos, how you're starting the videos. I just imagine, and maybe this is what you're doing, maybe you've got a bunch of different YouTube tabs open, and you've got, the one video up, and you drag that window onto the screen and hit the full screen button, and then click play, and then an ad plays because you don't have YouTube Premium, and you're waiting for 5 seconds while the ad plays, and then the song starts, and it's like, okay, that's done, and then a bunch of awkward YouTube suggestions pop up after that, and then you've got to switch over to the next tab, and then another ad plays, and so on and so forth. If that is your method for triggering these songs, of course the transitions are going to be hard. So how would I trigger a song? Well, I would download lyric videos, probably the ones that I talked about from Reawaken Hymns. I would put them in a presentation software, whether that is ProPresenter. If you don't have ProPresenter, honestly, any presentation software can handle video files now, so figure out how to do that. I used to run my slides with Keynote back in the day on an Apple computer. Free version of Keynote, you can drag videos onto a slide, and when you hit the next button, the video will play. So what if you downloaded these lyric videos, put them on a slide, and hit the button to play, and then the song ends and it fades out, and then you speak between the song leading into the next song, and then the person running projection hits play, and it starts flawlessly. See how that's so much different than just bringing it up on YouTube like I imagine a lot of churches are doing. So just think about the packaging of it, and if your transitions are really a problem, think, how can I minimize as much dead space in between the songs as possible? Now, if you are looking to form a worship team at your church, one of the best ways to do it is to actually have a plan for getting motivating people on your worship team. And that's why I want to give you the worship team toolkit that'll link down in the description below. In that toolkit, I give you my code of conduct that I give new worship team members. I give you the application process. So it is a system that people can follow to get onto your worship team, and that makes sure that you get high capacity worship team volunteers on your team and not the wrong people. So check that out down in the description below if you need help building a worship team and getting that off the ground at your church. Other than that, thanks so much for joining me. Until I see you in the next video, keep leading worship well.